Hi, my name is Raymond Gilmore, and I'm going to be talking about the body ritual among the Nacirema by Horace Minor. Initially, when I read this article, I found it very, very interesting that this was like some type of group that was like very weird. Had these weird rituals, these weird things that they did to their people. But as I read more in detail about it and kind of did my own research outside of the article, I did realize that Horace Minor is talking about the American culture as a group, as society, as people in general, which I find it very, very interesting how he words things in this article to talk about the American people. I do want to talk about how the Holy Mouth Man is one thing he uses, which is called, they're called dentists that we have. And I found it very, very interesting that he talks about how we do weird rituals to take, the cane teeth out of our mouth, basically, with like weird black magic. He also talks about therapy and therapists and how they try to take demons out of your mind, which is very interesting how he puts his words into it. Also, he talks about intercourse. He also talks about public bathrooms, and I think he also does talk about a little bit of a religion too, like Christianity. I guess you can use an example, but I found it really, really quite interesting. One pattern reaction ritual that I found was going to be that we do in, I guess the U.S. society now is going to be Congress, legislator type, that type of deal. We've had legislator, we've had Congress, we've had all those like government in general for the last like hundreds of years of when the U.S. was a thing. Not only was government a thing here in the U.S., but government was also in different types of countries, but it is a little bit different how they do it than we do it here in the U.S. or I guess in American culture. We have a president, we have a group of Supreme Court that takes care of things, and so if you go, I guess as you can say, go back in the day, let's say go back in the 1500s, 1600s, maybe like the 1300s. Different countries did similar things. Like you had a king, you had a queen, you had like a lord of the land, and they had like their, let's say Japan, they had the shogun, they had the samurai, and they were all in charge of a big group of people, and they each had their own type of different things that they may have done. Communication, the way they did rituals, they did events. The U.S. is very interesting of how we done things. If you go back in the day, go back in this when we first started, everything started very, very minuscule, very small. Big set of rules happened. Laws have been passed. The 10, the big main rules that we have, all the laws that we have progressed throughout the years. For example, you're gonna see just a bunch of new laws that come up as throughout the years. Like back a couple of 100 years ago, women weren't even able to vote then, and then now 200 years later, women are now able to vote, which is very, very cool. And it has progressed in a very, very well mannered way. It's just honestly a really interesting opportunity that we do have as a society, as a group, is that how things progress in a way. So now back then, women weren't even running for president. It wasn't even an idea then. And now we have a vice president, female vice president that is now running for president. And it's actually interesting how we have progressed as a society in that type of way and that type of culture. It's also really interesting how other cultures and other people, other groups look at us as a group in general, which I find it very interesting. And I'm going to talk about the beneficial elements to how that has affected the U.S. society as a overall ending. They're very beneficial because as time goes on, things change, technology changes, views change on life in general. There's just a lot of things overall that really change how people perceive life now. Back then they had different, styles, they had different like ways things were said, slang, I guess you could say. It's overall a really, really cool thing how people have changed throughout. And then Congress also has changed in that type of way too, making more laws throughout the years, because things now in our culture have changed significantly, drastically. And so overall, this article really has proved the point of of how other people perceive us, other cultures like look at us, how they think of us. And overall, I really enjoyed reading this article and doing some of my own research upon it. But yeah,